Three people close to the ruling Democratic Progressive Party are accused of leaking information to China, just weeks after President Lai Ching-te announced new measures to curb Chinese infiltration. Markets tumble and businesses brace for U.S. President Trump's new tariffs, though Taiwan's powerful chip sector is spared for now. Yoon Suk Yeol is removed as South Korea's president, but extreme political divisions could make moving forward difficult. Plus, how one family business is working to preserve handcrafting one of Taiwan's most cherished traditional products. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. 3 more suspects have been named in connection to an information leak from within Taiwan's presidential office. Reese Ayers has more.
Accusations of espionage are flying around Taiwan's presidential office. Several people with deep connections to the ruling Democratic Progressive Party and to the president himself are being accused of spying for China. There were 3 individuals identified in the report by Mirror Media, surnamed Cho, Huang and Wu, all with various positions and levels of access within the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, all accused of leaking sensitive information to China, and all coming just a day after former aide to ex-Legislative Speaker Yo Shi-kun, a founding member of the DPP, was released on bail. Let's zoom in on one person named in that report to get a sense of how deep this all goes. Mr. Wu had been working for the DPP central headquarters since before even former President Tsai Ing-wen was elected back in 2016. He then worked for Lai Ching-te in 2022, back when he was the vice president, apparently in charge of his day-to-day schedule. He was then kept on as an advisor after Lai was elected as president last year. So these are people who have direct access to the leadership of Taiwan. According to the report, Wu's colleagues said they hadn't seen him since Lunar New Year in February, and that his Facebook account had been deactivated. Now it all appears seemingly as a result of being investigated. Wu and the others accused are being held incommunicado as prosecutors continue their investigation. The presidential office has released a rather generic statement saying that they don't comment on individual cases or insinuations, but say that anyone found spying will face severe punishment, going on to say that China is increasingly trying to infiltrate Taiwan and recognizing an urgent need to strengthen the country's national security legislation. This all comes less than a month after Lai held a very serious press conference on this very issue, where he said that Taiwan needs to respond to China's growing attempts to infiltrate the country, including through recruiting political spies, and laid out a long series of measures that Taiwan needs to take to, as he said, protect its sovereignty. The opposition Kuomintang have also jumped on this story, accusing the DPP of allowing communist spies into Taiwanese politics, in a slightly ironic twist, as in Taiwan it's generally perceived that the KMT are the party with closer ties to Beijing. Andy Xue, Devon Tsai and Reese Ayers in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Stock markets around the world have been tumbling on fears Donald Trump's tariffs will trigger a global downturn. Rosie Greninger reports.
This is the moment the American stock market opened on Thursday, but it was all downhill from here. Wall Street closed with major losses after US President Donald Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on imports from across the world. Claiming the US had been ripped off by foreigners for decades, Trump set a baseline tariff of 10% on all goods coming into the US, taking the maximum rate to over 50% for some countries.
Well, the market is down today because the tariff announcement ended up being more extreme than most investors had anticipated. And because of it being extreme, investors are now worried about what the reciprocal tariffs will end up being with the retaliatory tariffs by our trading partners.
Liberation Day. Waiting for a long...
Calling the announcement Liberation Day, Trump claimed these measures will boost American manufacturing and, in his words, make America wealthy again. But with US markets already reeling, the US president has attempted to play down the impacts, saying it was to be expected.
So it was a sick patient. It went through an operation on Liberation Day, and it's going to be a booming country, a very booming country. It's going to be amazing, actually, and we see it because we have trillions of dollars committed to come in, trillions.
It's the biggest upheaval of global trade norms since the Second World War, also sending shockwaves through global exchange, with stock markets in the Asia-Pacific region falling for a second day. And global leaders have been left scrambling to respond. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen calling the move a major blow to the world economy.
I deeply regret this choice. Let's be clear-eyed about the immense consequences. The global economy will massively suffer. Uncertainty will spiral and trigger the rise of further protectionism.
She vowed Europe would take a unified approach and is preparing countermeasures if negotiations to fight the tariffs fail. Her comments echo a stance of opposition from a number of countries, including China, who also vowed to hit back, while Canada has already moved to impose reciprocal tariffs.
And today I'm announcing that the Government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach, with 25% tariffs on all vehicles imported from the United States. You know, we take these measures reluctantly, and we take them in ways that it's intended and will cause maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada.
Many other countries are taking the approach of diplomacy, amongst them Australia, Switzerland, Italy, Ukraine and the UK.
We are taking a calm approach, acting in the national interest. And the national interest is to continue our negotiations for a deal with the US, which we made big progress on, and to ensure that we work with the sectors and the industries most impacted.
Financial experts are warning that nobody in the world will benefit from Trump's new tariff policy, including the US, also cautioning it could lead to a recession. As countries move to respond, the stock market is first to feel the impacts of the uncertainty, with most markets down as investors brace for a full-blown trade war. Eason Penn and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Asian stock markets took a sharp hit after U.S. President Donald Trump announced blanket tariffs. Japan's market led a slide, with the Nikkei index dropping more than 2% early on Friday. It's on track for its biggest weekly loss since March 2020, down around 9% for the week. Markets in South Korea, Australia, and India all fell. Meanwhile, stock exchanges in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and mainland China are closed for the tomb-sweeping holiday. Taiwan's government is jumping in to assist industries that may be affected by massive new U.S. tariffs announced. The plan has separate funding for agricultural and industrial sectors, as Taiwan's largest industry, semiconductors, has so far been exempted from the tariffs. But as Chris Goring reports, that doesn't mean it's totally in the clear.
Taiwan's cabinet holds an emergency press conference to address the Trump administration's new 32% tariff on most Taiwanese goods entering the United States, announcing a $2.6 billion package to support industries harmed by the taxes.
以我国对美国的出口的各项产业当中，电子资讯、钢铁、金属、机械、汽车，尤其是零组件、建材等等，还有家电这些产业，目前评估起来，关税影响较为明显而重大。行政团队拟定了9大面向、20项措施，总经费880亿的协助方案，未来要因应产业跟社会的各项需求。
It's the strongest response yet from the government, whose reaction has been muted due to a national holiday. There was one notable exception to the tariffs, however: semiconductors, Taiwan's most valuable industry. In fact, semiconductors account for 60% of Taiwan's export value and 18% of its GDP. A single Taiwanese company, TSMC, makes nearly all the world's most advanced chips, many of which are critical to the biggest firms in the US, like Nvidia and Apple. But the reprieve may be short-lived. Trump says specific tariffs on sectors such as chips and pharmaceuticals are coming.
The chips or starting very soon. We are looking at pharma right now, pharmaceuticals. It's a separate category. And we'll be announcing that sometime in the near future, not too distant future. That's under review right now.
While the Trump administration's goal is to bring high-tech manufacturing back to the U.S., matching Taiwan's chip-making capacity might not be so easy.
It's silly to pretend that what TSMC does can be replicated in the short term. It's years and years and years to get to the point where other manufacturers can do what TSMC does, and TSMC has earned that spot.
The tariffs may impact American consumers as well, raising prices on products like smartphones, computers, and cloud-based services, something consumers might find hard to swallow.
I think it's important for viewers to understand that the majority of people in the U.S. who voted for this. The idea that, hey, we're being taken advantage of in the global economy. Fair people are going to watch this over time. And we have a self-correction mechanism in the U.S. It's called the midterm elections.
The 32% tariffs take effect on April 9th, while those on chips are still in the works. Negotiations are sure to take place before then. And the question for Taiwan is, will the next round of tariffs hit it where it hurts the most? Klein Wong and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Yoon Suk Yeol has been dismissed as South Korea's president after the country's constitutional court upheld his impeachment. Yoon was impeached for a brief martial law declaration late last year that included the deployment of the military to the National Assembly, actions the court says violated the Constitution and rule of law. Korea has 60 days to hold a presidential election. Yoon is awaiting a separate criminal trial for inciting insurrection. For more on the court's ruling, Alec McDonald spoke to Kyun Moon Hwang, professor of Korean history at the Australian National University.
Following the Constitutional Court's ruling, President Yoon is now former President Yoon. What does this mean for Korea?
I think South Korea has been through a lot in terms of the polarization of the country along political lines, along ideological lines, along generational lines, and regional lines as well. Those were there beforehand, but the last 4 months since the coup attempt of December 3rd have really raised those levels of polarization to extreme heights that I think are unprecedented. And so it's a matter of trying to recover from that following this verdict by the Constitutional Court. The country, I think, will remain polarized, but at least there will not be any more fear or, on the other side, hope that Yoon Suk Yeol will come back to office.
So with that polarization of the country in mind, how does Korea move forward politically with a snap election that must be held in the coming 60 days?
It's tough to imagine that the country will be more polarized than it is right now. I think the trial for the impeachment really did heighten things, and maybe to an extreme extent. It might be that the upcoming election, which will take place on June 3rd at the latest, the presidential election will move very swiftly into the campaign stage. And if precedent is followed, then perhaps within a month, the two major parties will have selected their candidates. And I hope that whoever comes out as the candidate for the former ruling party, there will be somewhat of a moderation of tone between that person and almost certainly the candidate for the Democratic Party, who will be Lee Jae-myung. Although that's not a certainty, I would be stunned if Yoon's party candidate wins the presidential election. But I've been stunned repeatedly over the past 4 months.
You mentioned that there were events that shocked you over the past 4 months. Aside from the surprise declaration martial law, what was the most shocking event to you?
I was shocked most by the vocalization, the expression of authoritarian sentiment in South Korea as the political polarization increased following the impeachment by the National Assembly in mid-December, and then the beginning of the Constitutional Court trial to verify that impeachment soon thereafter at the end of December, the process which came to a close today. And more specifically, I was stunned at the positions and expressions of the leaders of Yoon's party, the main conservative party, which was in the overwhelming minority. These people had more responsibility to uphold, you would think, the very institutions that gave them their authority, and yet they behaved and said things that were stunning, and they've been all put to shame by today's verdict.
That was Creole Moon Huang from the Australian National University. Friday marks the tomb sweeping holiday, and many Taiwanese will burn joss paper or ghost money to send to their departed relatives. Tiffany Wong went to Miaoli to find out how one family is preserving the craft by hand. Lost in the rhythm of a 100-year-old tradition, the Chen family works in tandem to put together intricate sheets of joss paper, offerings for the gods and ancestors ahead of the Tomb Sweeping Festival, also known as the Qingming holiday, when people visit their ancestors' graves and offer food, incense, and paper money for their loved ones who have passed away. This is one of the last handmade joss paper shops in the world. Third-generation owner Chen Kunhui has been running his family's business for decades, and they're working hard to keep the tradition alive.
这个是拜神明的，像这样大，拜祖先是用银色的。
Chen is responsible for operating this digital cutting machine, slicing through stacks of yellow bamboo paper for the rest of his team to attach foil, paint, and red seals by hand. It's a painstaking process, but the Chens work quickly to make thousands of sheets a day.
Over the years, Mr. Chen's workshop has gained a lot of attention, and it's easy to find. Just follow the yellow joss paper road. This stamped ghost money needs to dry in the sun for up to a week before it's ready for final processing. The Chen's joss paper is more expensive than mass-produced, machine-made ones. Although they're sticking to tradition, they have made some upgrades to set their paper money apart. The Chens have adjusted their processes to include less harmful materials so that when they burn the paper to send it to the underworld, they don't pollute this world's environment as much. But that's not enough to save this tradition from changing times.
拢一寡老花啊，老花若走去就无人接起来就无去啊。即马做这款的有剩3间。 机器化还佫4、5间，安尼，免讲，做一寡卖甲进口同款，安尼免讲市场还佫有啦。
Many local governments have implemented measures to lessen environmental pollution from temples. At one popular temple in Taipei, many visitors still opt to buy joss paper as offerings, but they can't burn it themselves. Instead, they place it in these bags for temple staff to burn later.
我觉得不是自己烧，还是一样是一个心意，因为通常都是庙方会统一，就是一起去烧化，所以我觉得我自己对这块还算放心。
以前还可以自己烧，那现在就是要集中，然后庙会帮忙烧，就是少了一种就是自己对神明的那种感觉。
Some temples have come up with solutions so that people can still burn the paper themselves, like upgrading their furnaces to filter out pollutants, maintaining their connection with the gods and their ancestors. But the demand for handmade joss paper may face more challenges, as these intricate stacks of paper money are reduced, like all other matter, to ashes in the end. Kama Shri and Tiffany Wong in Zhunan, Taiwan for TaiwanPlus.
Top diplomats from the U.S., Japan, and South Korea say they're concerned over China's recent military drills around Taiwan. The three countries called for the peaceful resolution of cross-strait issues in a joint statement issued after the NATO Foreign Ministers Summit in Brussels. The statement said they opposed any unilateral attempts to change the status quo in the Taiwan Strait. It also repeated support for Taiwan's meaningful participation in international organizations. Taiwan's foreign ministry has thanked the three countries for their support. The official death toll from Myanmar's magnitude 7.7 earthquake has risen to over 3,100 as search and rescue teams continue to find bodies. More than 1,000 international rescue personnel are helping in the large-scale search effort. Hundreds of people are still missing. The massive quake struck last Friday, causing widespread destruction to the country's buildings and historic temples. A report released by the United Nations on Thursday says thousands of people are in urgent need of trauma care, surgery, and treatment for diseases. Myanmar's junta has announced a ceasefire to make way for earthquake recovery, but activists in the country say fighting still continues in certain regions. They're also protesting military leader Min Aung Hlaing's trip to Bangkok for a major regional summit, insisting that Thailand not give the junta a seat. To learn more, Gino Lopez spoke to Zarni So from the Arakan Youth Peace Network.
What is the situation on the ground right now in Myanmar as people are reeling from the earthquake?
First, in Myanmar, since the junta dictator took the country power, the country has been in turmoil, facing with increasing instability. Right now, very unfortunate that the big 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit, epicenter Mandalay. The death tolls continues rise, while many remains track under the collapsed infrastructure. But the junta has never stopped bombing area bombardment against civilians, particularly in Sagaing and other rural sites.
Amid previous reports of junta bombing, how has the recovery effort been?
The junta also blocked the international journalists, media, and they provided humanitarian aid. We have been receiving data reports that there's no emergency team that the junta provide to the affected area, like in Sagaing, Mandalay, and other most affected area. Right now, a lot of civil society organizations from different backgrounds, they are trying to provide the most affected people, but actually it's not enough.
What can we expect moving forward now that the junta has announced the ceasefire?
In the history of Myanmar, the junta declare the ceasefire to consolidate their power, not to solve the root cause of the problem. We expect nothing because the junta is now going to attend business. He's using as a pretext to move his power, like attending the BIMSTEC in Thailand. But the Thailand government also should, instead of providing a seat to the junta, the Thailand government also should raise providing the emergency humanitarian team more effectively to the conflict area.
That was Zarni So from the Arakan Youth Peace Network. India's expanding cities are grappling with an escalating crisis of water pollution. In northern India, dedicated volunteers are taking action to clean the banks of the Yamuna River, removing trash one piece at a time by hand. Adora reports.
The Yamuna River flows through India's capital, New Delhi, and its waters are considered by some to be sacred. This riverbank was once highly polluted with human and industrial waste. But now, a group of volunteers led by environmental activist Pankaj Kumar is painstakingly cleaning it up by hand.
यहाँ पे जो हम लोग बैठे हुए हैं ना, आज से अगर 5 साल पहले आते तो यहाँ पे लोग नहीं आते थे। ये इतना गंदा था कि यहाँ पे जो है नीचे आप धोता कपड़े जमे हुए थे पूरा। कोई भी नहीं आता था, घाट पे बदबू आती थी। बट जो है बच्चों ने, टीम ने बहुत ज़्यादा मेहनत की, मेरे टीम ने भी, दूसरे की टीम ने भी बहुत मेहनत करके सारे सॉलिड वेस्ट को हटा के यहाँ से हटाया। तो आज ये घाट ऐसा बन चुका है कि ये घाट पे आप आके पूजा कर सकते हैं, ये घाट पे आप आके जो है बैठ सकते हैं आप।
New Delhi produces about 3.6 billion liters of sewage each day. However, less than half of the sewage is treated effectively, with large amounts of trash ending in the Yamuna. Kumar and his group of volunteers can be seen gathering waste from the banks of the river. They hope to transform the river bank by cleaning the trash themselves.
भाव इसलिए जुड़ा कि जब आप बार-बार एक जगह आ रहे हैं, आप देख रहे हैं उसकी कंडीशन कितनी वर्स है, फिर आपको लग रहा है कि आपकी एक छोटी पॉलिथीन उठाने से ही अगर कुछ इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है तो आपको वो करना चाहिए. शायद आज ना सही, लेकिन और 5 साल बाद हम कामयाब तो होंगे, एक उम्मीद के साथ.
Today, the river bank is cleaner than a few years ago, bringing people back to the riverside. As India's economic growth picks up, the size of the cities like New Delhi has grown dramatically. This has led to waste increasingly ending up in the rivers. Kumar says removing trash is only a small part of the puzzle and hopes the local authorities will take the lead in treating Delhi's wastewater.
पहली बात है कि हमें जो हमारे दिल्ली के ड्रेन से या आसपास के ड्रेन से उसकी वाटर क्वालिटी इम्प्रूव कैसे हो उस पर ध्यान देना होगा. उनमें जो वेस्ट वाटर ट्रीटेड अनट्रीटेड मिले, जो ट्रीटेड मिल रहे क्या वो स्टैंडर्ड के हिसाब से काम कर रहे हैं ये देखना होगा, और जो अनट्रीटेड सोर्स है उनको हमें ट्रैप करना होगा कि उनको ट्रैप करके आप उनको ट्रीट करें.
High levels of pollution in the Yamuna River became a hot topic during the capital's legislative elections earlier this year. But while politicians debate solutions, a dedicated band of volunteers is taking action, showing that individuals can make a difference. Adil Brar and Scott Huang for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we go to London for an immersive Minecraft experience. I'm Chen. Take care and see you next time.